Welcome to City Talk. I'm your host, Chris Moriconi. The purpose of the show is to inform and educate you, our viewers, on interesting things and beneficial educational items happen here right in Kenton County. And I'm excited about the show, as I always am. We got some great guests. We're going to start introducing Mayor Dave Hatter, great city of Fort Wright.
Thanks for having me on as always, Chris. I appreciate it.
Great to have you. Mayor Paul Meier, the great city of Crestview Hills.
Thank you, Chris. Love being here all the time.
Well, thank you. And Mr. Seth Cutter, now you're the Vice President of Public Affairs for CVG, which we all know is the Cincinnati Airport.
That's right, Chris. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Well, we're glad to have you because, as we all know, those of us that have traveled either on pleasure or business at the airport, it's a great thing to have in our community, trust me. And you and I were talking the other day, we're going to discuss a lot of the fun things going on out there, expansions, economic development, the importance of the cargo, and everything that's happening. So we're going to talk about that and its impact on the region, to have such a great asset right smack in the middle of our community. It's a home run. So we're going to kick things off. So now you've been there 7 years.
That's right, Chris. Yep.
Okay. So what I wanted to start with, Seth, was everybody's always asking about new airlines, what new flights are coming. I know there's Air Canada. I think there's now a flight that's nonstop to London, and all the new services that are coming with airports. So let's start with new airlines. What's coming down the pike?
Yeah, Chris, and especially for passengers, right? Like, for us at CVG, that's really the bread and butter of what we do is passenger air service. We're proud to serve over 9.2 million passengers from this entire Cincinnati region each year. That was where we ended 2024. Wow. And it's because of new flight additions and the variety of carriers that we are proud to work with and offer to customers that, you have choice in travel and prices are lower than ever. It's more affordable to fly because we have a mix of legacy airlines and low-cost carriers. So later this year, in May actually, Air Canada will launch new service to Montreal. So that's a great city to visit, also a good jumping off point to Asia and Europe for folks who might be connecting. And then on the international side as well, this June, British Airways will celebrate 2 years of serving London Heathrow. And I can tell you that flight's been doing just tremendous, and even on top of Delta's Paris service, which has been running for about 25 years. London now 2 years in the mix is doing great, and our region has really responded to that and taken advantage of all the new options as well.
So the flight to London, wasn't there a nonstop years ago? Might have been from Delta, and I think they pulled that back.
Yes, yeah. So in the Delta hub days, right, we had a lot of nonstop service to European markets, Brussels, some German markets, London as well.
Okay.
So we're glad to have London back on the map, right? But what's different now than maybe some long tenured residents of our community may remember is we're a much more affordable place to fly out of these days, right? And we're primarily an airport that is not serving connecting traffic like we maybe once used to in the 80s and 90s, now much more focused on folks from within our region, right? The local passengers and folks whose business may bring them to the area. Visitors coming to the Bourbon Trail, to our communities, and that's really what we're, I think, most proud of, is that we're an airport that primarily serves the local community versus connecting travelers.
So that's a good point. I hadn't thought about CVG as a non-connecting airport, but I rarely ever hear anybody saying I'm connecting, or family that live in other parts, like, oh, I got to connect to Cincinnati. I mean, it's like,
one of the stats we're most proud of is that 70% of all of our 9 million plus travelers get to where they want to go nonstop, right? So we have more than 55 nonstop destinations. Hopefully in the coming weeks and months, we'll be able to announce some new carriers, new airlines. Our team is always working hard to expand the map to get where people want to go, but to make sure that you have an affordable way to do that and a nonstop way to do it.
I guess we're away from the days when we'd always look at other airports like Indianapolis, Dayton, and Lexington, Louisville to get out of here. Now we just go to CVG for our flights.
That's right, man.
And that's great.
Exactly.
I agree. That's a huge benefit.
Yeah, and there was a fun fact. One time I actually had to fly out of Columbus, and we flew into Cincinnati
And to get back to
to go where we were going.
I've done this before on various flights. It's like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and it did from a price perspective, right? You may have had to do that because it was, a more affordable way to do it. But that's, Meier, to your point, where we're much much more focused on keeping the airfares low, creating competition of carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Even for the folks who maybe don't fly Frontier or Allegiant, having competition on the same routes to the same markets as a Delta or an American Airlines creates competition for the customer and helps drive those prices down as well.
I worked at the airport years ago. I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
It was one of the funnest jobs I had. Now, city administrator is my favorite of all time. but no, I loved working at the airport. Every day is different. You just meet people. And it was fascinating because there was a gentleman that worked in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And he would get to the airport on Sunday night, fly to San Francisco, come home on Thursday nights. That was his commute. It was fascinating to me. And it was just a nonstop. I couldn't imagine.
Well, Chris, one of the things to that end, I think that we're most proud of, right? The airport, yeah, it's about connecting our region and our home to the world and providing that opportunity for people, but providing opportunity for jobs, right? And economic impact for our community. That's really apart from the day-to-day of running an operation, that's really what we exist to do, is to create jobs and to create economic impact for this region. In fact, just the other week, NKU updated our economic impact numbers for 2024, and I'm proud to say we have a $10.5 billion annual economic impact supporting more than 56,000 jobs. So that's all the tourism, the capital improvements, all the jobs, and that's really what it's about for us.
Well, and I think I'm glad you brought that up because a little bit later we're going to talk about the economic development strategy, which I'm sure that's going to play right into it.
Exactly.
That's good data to have. So before we move on to cargo, just one last thing. So the low-cost carriers like Frontier, is that now a hub at CVG?
Yeah, actually,
is that up and running? It's
Frontier
100%?
Opened last May. Frontier opened a crew base, right? So what that means is we're a kind of starting point, or not technically a hub, but a starting point and ending point for crew. So their flying schedule, they begin and end the day at CVG. They might do a flight or two depending on the route, but it's helped add some new routes for Allegiant. Or from Frontier, excuse me.
Right.
But then it's also brought more than 200 jobs across the spectrum, pilots, flight attendants, and mechanics as well, all in that ecosystem of creating a hub or a base for them.
Well, we'll talk about mechanics too. That's another good topic we're going to cover. It's amazing what's going on at CVG. So you can't tell us any of the airlines coming?
No hints, but I think folks, particularly in the business community, will be happy to hear.
Okay, good. And this may not air for a couple weeks, but just FYI. Okay, I get it.
All good.
I respect that. So another second item we wanted to cover is cargo, because the importance, and we talked about the job ripple effect, and I believe there's a second maintenance hangar that is going to be built or is going to under construction. Just open.
Yeah.
And then that segues into the new school for mechanics.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the cargo aspect, because I think I toured part of the Amazon out there, and it was only a third finished.
Sure.
But the cargo aspect that comes out of CVG is mind-boggling. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so cargo, you can't have a conversation anymore about our airport without talking about cargo.
Right.
So we are the 7th largest cargo airport in North America. That's huge, right? And especially for a place like Kentucky that already has UPS Worldport in Louisville.
Yeah.
This state has something really special that very few people, or other places rather, have. So we are the global super hub for the Americas region for DHL Express. DHL has invested over $400 million in the last 10 years in their hub. They employ about 6,000 people just in their operation. And then right across the street, is Amazon Air's primary hub in their air network, which became operational in 2021. And that's a $1.5 billion investment by the company, right? So those two operations, we got some activity by FedEx, all that combined, right? You're looking at one of the top 20 global cargo airports.
And what's astounding about that is the Amazon, they're not built out. They have ample room to keep growing there.
Continued growth, yeah.
Do you have a stat? I don't know the acreage
Yeah, they have right now. They have about 600 acres in their footprint. They have some other land they could develop on. you know, sometimes it's a great jobs story, right? And what comes with that and what is a result of that.
Yeah.
We know that for a lot of folks in Kenton County and across northern Kentucky, sometimes there's concern about, hey, that, you know, that's disrupting my lifestyle, that's a lot more activity. But we say every time you hear those engines, right, it may noise, you know, airplane noise might be disruptive at different times of the day, but that's also sounds of commerce and investment in our community.
Landing and takeoff fees.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because of the cargo and those landing fees, and it's done by weight, I'm sure, by
That's right,
flights, has that kept some of that cost down for the other carriers?
Right. That's right, Mayor. So every time, as much as we grow on the cargo side, right, that can allow the airport to keep our fees for the different airlines low and help us attract more passenger air service too.
Okay, so let's talk a little, and by the way, if you live in Independence, you don't hear that noise as bad, just FYI. We got plenty of room for you. So I got to get a plug in for my city.
A great Kenton County
That's
community.
right, a great Kenton County community.
You just got to drive a lot further to get to the airport, remember, right, City?
Mayor Meier, you got me again. But so really, let's talk. We just got a little bit of time left about that mechanic school. That fascinates me. This is incredible.
So with a lot of the cargo growth and the passenger growth, right, we've had this kind of economic development strategy, and we have land to do it at the airport, 7,000 acres of airport land. How do we do more for the life cycle of aircraft needs, right? And a big piece of that is maintenance, right? So a few years ago, a company out of Miami, Florida called FEAM opened a maintenance hangar. They just opened last spring a second one, right? $45 million investment, hiring hundreds of aircraft mechanics that on average, after an 18-month high school diploma GED, you go through an 18-month program, and it's $60,000 starting wages, right? So these are great jobs. And then the other piece that's just come last spring now has been not a flight school, but it's called Epic Academy, and it's a maintenance school, aircraft maintenance school, where folks can go and receive this education, and then these job opportunities are right there down the road on our campus. So
that's amazing. So if somebody goes to this 18-month mechanic school, is there a requirement that they have to stay at CVG?
No, they can go anywhere. The job opportunities are endless. It's a really in-demand field across the aviation industry. We're just proud that we have a lot of need in that area right on campus. So if folks, you know, from Kenton County want to go take advantage of that, there's going to be job opportunities on the other end.
That's incredible, because especially starting salary of $60,000 for an 18-month. I mean, that's
it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I'm glad
With
you
no
brought
debt?
that.
Yeah.
Please.
No college debt?
Yeah, and no debt either. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, this is great. We got some more great topics to cover about CVG, the airport that's right in the middle of a Kenton, Boone County area like that. So we're going to be right back with more City Talk after this short break.
My mom is a veteran, and she was injured in the line of duty.
I hurt my leg in a training accident when she was only 2 years old.
She had 7 different surgeries over the span of 9 years, and there were tons of complications.
I couldn't be the mom my kids needed me to be.
She missed so much.
After my last surgery, I got an infection so bad I thought it was going to kill me.
I told her she couldn't leave me yet. There was still so much she had to see. I hadn't even graduated.
I'm doing much better now. I'm an active part of my kids' lives.
She can kick a mean soccer ball.
DAV's been there for me and my family. Through thick and thin, they've had our back.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans like Sandy get the health and disability benefits they've earned, so they can achieve victories great and small.
My victory is getting my life back. I may have lost my leg, but I've gained so much. I got my joy back.
We got our mom back, thanks to DAV.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
We're back with more City Talk. We're going to continue our discussions with Mayors Hatter, Meier, and Seth Cutter with the CVG Airport Vice President of Public Affairs. And CVG, I think, does everybody know that's the abbreviation for Covington? No, I don't know.
We like to make sure people remember. So airport codes were figured out, determined when the airport opened, what was the largest nearest city. So when we opened to commercial traffic in 1947, that was Covington, Kentucky.
That's great.
Here in Kenton County.
Here in Kenton County, that's right. Yeah, that's interesting fun fact there. So, Okay, well, we're going to move on. We just talked a little about the mechanic school, which
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
that's incredible, an 18-month program that, and we need like that. You know, 4-year colleges aren't for everybody. I think we flooded the market with a lot of 4-year degrees that maybe some kids would be better off with more of a hands-on. So I love that. Is there an enrollment yet? How's it doing?
Oh yeah, the school's doing great. They can accommodate 20 classes of 25 students at a time. So workforce is a huge focus for us at the airport, right? Because there's a variety of jobs, right? For the airport authority, we've got, electricians, accountants. You've got a whole variety of things that are needed to keep a 24/7, 365 kind of operation going as needed.
Well, what's interesting is we're going to move on to talk about other items, but they reminded me about the airport police. I mean, the airport police department is just amazing. You know, we all run our city police departments, but what's the size of that?
Yeah, so we have a fire department on the airport. We've got about 50 to 55 firefighter EMTs who are trained to do both structural response and aircraft fire and rescue. And then our police officers, we have about 50 sworn officers, and that runs the gamut like your city departments, but there's certain requirements we, the airport, have for TSA compliance, patrolling the terminal. We also have investigators who are working on special projects with some of our federal partners. It's a really unique department.
Moving people along that are parked too long in the white zone. Things like that.
Oh, Meier, you have experience with that?
I've been told that's a problem. I wouldn't know myself. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. So then let's talk about, you and I discussed earlier this week about some of the major improvements in modernization that's going to happen at CVG, and some of it I think has already happened. But did I catch that number right? You said $600 million.
That's right.
In improvements. $600 million is in improvements in modernization are coming, and you said that every aspect that the traveler experiences will be enhanced and improved by this. So $600 million. Let's talk about that.
No, it's spot on, Chris. Right, we're just kind of at the beginning stages of this, but we were kind of talking before. Is everybody who's been in this region a long time in this community knows that the airport we operate out of today was really built by Delta for a Delta hub.
Yeah.
Right. A fun little fact thrown in there is if you're coming down the escalators in Concourse A. Many folks may not realize that, or maybe they do, that they point right out of Concourse B, right? Not the exit, right? So for an airport like we talked about in the first segment, that's really for the local passengers, they've got to turn around, right? That's just inefficient, right? But it's kind of this legacy of we have great bones. There was a lot of investment made through the years, but it's time for the next kind of generation of investment. So what we have put together is a program called Elevate CVG. Over the next 5 years, we aim to invest about $600 million all across the facility, the passenger facilities, from the curb through the ticket counters, the security checkpoint, down to the tunnel, and then each of the 2 concourses, all the gates. And the idea with this is, some of these systems, the mechanical systems, they're old, they need to be updated. We need to create a better sense of place, right? Many airports are building new. We've studied that's not the right fit for CVG. As we said, we have great bones. We just need to elevate what we've already got. So that's our program. Folks at home will be hearing more about this in the weeks and months to come, and it will be disruptive, right, as we go through and try to get everything replaced and enhanced. But at the other end of it, it'll be much improved. We're thinking it'll be something that everybody can be proud of. That when a visitor here for the first time steps off that aircraft, they can come in and see a modern, efficient, bright, roomy, spacious terminal that really reflects the Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati region.
That's amazing. So in airports, it seems like they're never done evolving.
Right.
And I think CVG in leadership over the years has done a great job with new restaurants.
Right.
Trying to make it more robust with different things while you're waiting on your flight and all that. So are there like more restaurants coming, or you're just taking what's there, so you're adding?
No, it's a variety of things, right? So the Elevate CVG program is really about the physical footprint. How do passengers move? How do we make that easier for folks? The rental car facility that we opened in 2021 was really the kickstart to that.
Yeah.
We're working on things like the baggage system, where Chris, I think you've spent some time in the belly of the beast.
Yeah.
It's in the sub basement, but that's how your bag gets when you drop it and check it in out to where it needs to be screened and then onto your plane.
Yeah.
We're looking at all that stuff. What we've been doing on the concession front, right, has been a really concerted effort over the last, I'd say, like 3 or so years to update all our offerings and to bring a better sense of place in, right? So we partner with folks like here in Kenton County. Braxton Brewing has opened up a location in the last few years in Concourse A, which is doing great. So we're really trying to be intentional about bringing things in like that.
Yeah.
And then this whole program will really complement that.
Yeah, even the Fifth Third opened up like a business incubator. You can go in there and do work
It's
while you're waiting.
what they call the branch of the future out in Concourse B. They invested an incredible amount of investment and opened just about this time last year in their new branch, right? So if anybody can go in there, customers of Fifth Third or not, and relax or grab a cup of coffee even.
So will the airport, the footprint that's there now, will that footprint get bigger, or all the construction will be within the footprint that's there now?
Great question, Chris. So much like our friends and colleagues in city government, airports are required by the FAA to do what we call or you all have comprehensive plans. We have what's called a master plan.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar. We have to look at how much traffic we're going to have over the next 30 or 40 years and make sure that we have enough gates. Do you have enough room for all the people that you're trying to serve? And CVG is very lucky, right? The bones we're in are big enough to take us through 2050. That means no new runways, right?
Okay.
We don't have to make a big addition to a concourse for more gates. We have space, and that's what we're talking about. Is we just need to really refurbish and elevate that so we can continue to grow into it and extend the length of the life of that asset.
I think also part of that plan, if you have not already started, is some of the new ramps are going out to the planes that being replaced.
That's right, Meier. So a lot of the jet bridges over the last few years have been replaced, right? The jet bridge is the connecting piece between where the gate is and the terminal or concourse out to the aircraft. And then we've also, the concrete, right, that supports where the aircraft are operating. We've been able to leverage a lot of federal funds to enhance and extend the length of that asset life too.
That's incredible. And I know during construction it's going to be, we all, it's just a part of growth and improvements.
It's part of growth, but I think it's we're working with some great partners, and it'll be expedited a timeline as we can get to really get to the other side of that.
Yeah, and it's a small price to pay for more
years of extended life on a really great structure.
Yeah, get us through that TSA line faster.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do have to say, they do a good job with that one machine that is like an MRI. You don't even take your shoes off and stuff. It's the only airport I've ever seen that at.
Before I go to the airport, I pull up CVGairport.com and I see what my parking is going to be and where my TSA is going to be. So
that's a good point about that.
That's right, Meier. We have all that posted on our homepage. And Chris, as you know, we have one of the best. We have tremendous federal partners here at CVG. Our TSA, they consistently rank among the best. We're very proud to work with them.
Yeah, I never have any issues. They do a great job. So the final segment we'll talk about before we wrap up is the economic development strategy. This entire ecosystem that is the airport, it's its own self-contained city, almost its own state. Let's talk about the economic development strategy for the last couple of minutes.
Yeah. Well, Chris, it's funny you tee it up that way, because we often say, like our colleagues in local government, we're a city within a city, right? We have about 7,000 acres, as I manage, a little bit more under management, which is actually bigger than the land size of the city of Florence out in Boone County. We won't talk about them and Mayor Abushan, but they're we're police and fire, like we said, we're kind of self-contained. One of the things that we're trying to do as we look to the next, decade plus, is really start to think beyond that footprint directly on the airport campus and say, how do we take what's happening here, the cargo activity we talked about, all those maintenance opportunities, even more that's happening on campus, and extend that so the rest of our region can benefit in terms of economic development. And so one of the projects just in the last few months that we've been working on with some consultants is to do a study around how do you take all the assets, aviation, aerospace assets in Dayton, Ohio, down through Cincinnati, folks like GE Aerospace who are headquartered here in the region, through northern Kentucky, and down through Louisville. How do you create this kind of corridor that goes out globally and markets opportunities, whether it's the airframe manufacturers, more maintenance, aviation maintenance, suppliers, folks who would benefit being close to Amazon or DHL to ship their products globally. How do we capture some of that goodness? Because what this kind of mega region, if you will, has is really unique the world over. So that's something we're kind of focused on and we'll be focusing more on in the years to come because it'll have great benefits for our communities. The only way that Northern Kentucky can grow, and growth is not a bad word, right? If you're not growing, it means we're not adding new, we're dying, right? That's right, Mayor, right? So how do we contribute taking the asset that we have and kind of ballooning it out beyond just our borders?
I love that. That's incredible.
I love that idea too. And Seth, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, part of what makes CVG so attractive in this idea, I think, is we're like, a 5-hour drive and obviously much less time away by flight from the vast majority of the United States. So
Mayor, that
you can
hits it on the
stitch
head.
together, from Dayton to Louisville, it would be an economic powerhouse just because of the proximity to virtually everything else in the U.S. I think it's a brilliant idea. I love it.
That's 100% on the money. And really, it's no coincidence, right, that we here in Northern Kentucky are really at the center of that. Not to say we're the only piece of it, right?
Yeah.
But we're an important piece of that, right? And when you look at not only how close are you to the rest of the country, but all your other assets like your rivers, your highways, et cetera.
Well, and you got the other benefit too. I mean, cost of living here is low, cost of energy is low. I mean, there's a lot of, you mentioned it without being specific, there's a lot of unique benefits to this region.
That's 100%.
And if you could expand it from Dayton to Louisville, it would be pretty incredible.
I'd love to hear that. We could do a whole show on that. I wish we could.
We'll come back
really
next time.
exciting.
We ran out of time to do a fun fact, but that just means we're going to do a part 2. But I really appreciate, Seth, you coming out, and this has been so informative. And Mayor Meier, thank you for your time, and Mayor Hatter, we appreciate it. And that's it for this episode of City Talk, and you can catch us on rerun on 815 Alta Fiber, 203 on Spectrum, and on demand at tbnk.org. Thank you for joining us on this episode of City Talk, and remember, it's your government.